Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
7:06, O'Connor and Company, this very busy Thursday morning as we still await the plume of white smoke emitting from the chimney at the Sistine Chapel, but not so much. We've had nothing but black smoke this morning. Coming up in 30 minutes, we'll check in with Raymond Arroyo of EWTN, who's in Rome. We'll get his take on how the conclave is developing, if he has any insight. I bet he does. 8:05, KT McFarland on the plan for Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Besant, to meet with China this weekend. And then at 8:35, Senator Rand Paul, I want to ask him if, at this point, based on everything we know about gain of function, based on everything we know about the testimony under oath, should Anthony Fauci be facing some sort of criminal investigation, regardless of that pardon? We'll get into all of that coming up later this morning. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Mercedes Schlapp. Good morning, Mercedes.
Hello. Buenos dias, everyone.
Buenos dias, indeed. Victoria Cobb is the president of the Family Foundation of Virginia. Her organization, the oldest pro-family advocacy organization in the Commonwealth, has now joined the discussion out in Loudoun County having to do with those two young male students who are now facing sex discrimination charges. And if you could, Victoria Cobb, first of all, thank you for joining us, and thank the Family Foundation of Virginia and the Founding Freedoms Law Center for sort of joining this fight for these two young men. We've been talking about it all week, but if listeners are just joining this story, can you sort of describe exactly what happened at Stonebridge High School and why these two boys are now under the gun?
Yeah, the Founding Freedoms Law Center is proud to represent these three young boys, sophomores in high school, who were simply wrongly accused for having a conversation in their own locker room about the fact that they were concerned that there was a female in their locker room. And for that, they have been brought up on sexual harassment charges, Title IX, because the biological girl who has been in their locker room took video of this conversation and turned it into the school.
That's just unreal. So when you say that are they being charged? Is this is it something that will go to court, or is this something that's dealing more within the school district right now? How is this being broken down?
Yes, it is within the school district. So it is an investigation by the school as to whether they have violated Title IX. It is three boys. One of them has already had their first for their first hearing. I don't know if that's exactly the word, because you're right, it is not in the court of law, so I don't want to confuse people. But
right,
and then
right.
the two boys are scheduled shortly, and so it is a stunner for a lot of people. And again, this whole thing points to what I'm sure has been talked about over and over on this show and in this county for years, which is that Loudoun County has simply shown us once again that their radical policies, which allow non-biological sexed people into locker rooms, bathrooms, onto sports teams, that their policies are out of step with biological reality and certainly the community and how they feel.
Certainly out of step with those things, but also, forgive me, this is a Title IX complaint, ironically, against these boys for speaking their mind about having their private space invaded by a girl. But isn't that in and of itself a violation of Title IX? My understanding of Title IX is that there can be no sex discrimination, and the people's rights need to be protected in public schools. That means boys should be able to have a private space without a girl being in there. And Title IX does not recognize transgender individuals as falling under the category of sex. So isn't Loudoun County Public Schools in violation of Title IX, ma'am?
Well, you've got it exactly on point, because this county is already running afoul of the President Trump's executive orders on gender and on sports. They're running afoul of Virginia's Department of Education guidelines on how to handle these matters, and they just continue. I mean, they're under investigation by the federal government because of the way they're handling these issues. And so now, because of this, the Attorney General and the governor has prompted the Attorney General to do an investigation. So this county just continues to deny all of reality and run afoul of all of their parents who are in their school board meetings over and over asking them to repeal their bad policies. I mean, and we're going to see this through. We're going to get justice for these boys, and we're going to get these policies overturned one way or the other.
Victoria, can I ask you, I mean, what's kind of the sense? What are other parents saying? Like, is there a sense that the community is rallying in support of these boys? I mean, even having this, this girl who's in the boy locker room, like videotaping them, that in and of itself, I mean, they don't have any sort of cell phone kind of restriction.
Isn't that a violation?
I mean, how could that girl be in the locker room with a cell phone and then basically taping these boys in a private, like what I would consider a very private space?
In fact, it is a violation to video in a locker room in Loudoun school policies. And so the irony of the entire thing is not only are they wrongly accusing these boys, but where is the investigation for the violation of the policy for this girl, this individual who's in their locker room? And so it is a stunner. Parents are distraught. They know this follows up on the incident that we had years ago where they had assault in the bathroom. Again, these policies breed this kind of behavior. One should expect that a policy like this, where you can wander into spaces that are not for your gender with no questions asked, and everybody's supposed to be okay with it. That is where this stuff begins to happen. And so these boys are now having to defend themselves, and the school has a wide range of, should they find these boys, quote, guilty, they have a wide range from detention to suspension to expulsion. I mean, these boys can face real consequences. And so we really are horrified that they're even in this situation.
There's also a First Amendment right here where these male students in their high school locker room were expressing their own feelings, their own opinions about the fact that they had to share their locker room with a biological girl. Victoria Cobb, do we know specifically what they said? Did they use, and again, not that this rises to the level of the kind of charges that they put against them, but do we know what the content of their concerns were, how they expressed them or what they said?
They simply expressed concerns. I do not think, would the recording come out, anyone would be concerned about what they heard. These boys are simply saying, look, why is there a girl in our bathroom? Why is that appropriate?
I suspect, by the way, that's the sexual harassment by calling this transgender boy a girl. It's like, you can't call me a girl, even though by any objective measure, she is a girl.
And again, this is why the policies just deny biological reality, because to be able for them to stand on the truth of the matter is what is up in play right here.
Well, and it's horrible that these boys have to go through this. I mean, it's just horrible. I mean, you can't even have a conversation without being, completely destroyed and destroy their reputation.
Well, this is the thing. These school officials, they think they're above the law, above, they think they're beyond these executive orders, and it doesn't matter what the Department of Education says. And these boys, I mean, the outcomes of these investigations, when kids try to go to college, guess what's asked on the application? You got any mark on your record? I mean, this is not just hey, by the way, we have difference of opinion in the schools just saying you did something wrong. This has real consequence.
We are grateful to Victoria Cobb and the Family Foundation and the Founding Freedoms Law Center for defending two of these three male students during this process. Keep us updated on it. I appreciate you joining us, Victoria.
Thanks so much for having me.
Also, the irony, there's sort of a thing, Mercedes, about locker room talk. It's like, trust me, when I was in a locker room, you heard a lot of stuff in a locker room. That's how boys are.
This locker room stuff is very real in the sense for these boys who were just saying, hey, why is this girl in my locker room? Hello?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, as locker room talk goes, this is sort of the pretty benign, innocent stuff.
The G version.
And by the way, here's what's happening. This girl's father is probably outraged over this. This girl's father is probably trying to protect this girl and trying to fight for her girl, which is ironic because that's what dads do for their daughters. But if their son came to them and said, hey, the guy said this in the locker room to me, and a normal father would say, yeah, you know what, son, you got to suck it up and, you talk back and, you got to defend yourself. But you don't take it to court. You don't file a Title IX suit. The reason she's filing a Title IX suit is because she's a she and she shouldn't be in the locker room in the first place. All right. Sorry.
Okay. Pull it together. You're good, Larry.
I get it. It's very frustrating sometimes.
It's horrible. It makes me so angry.
Basic logic is not employed. God bless the Founding Freedom Law Center for jumping up on this. It's 7:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So the World Cup is coming to the United States of America in 2026. For those of you who like metric football, I understand your excitement over it. All the eyes of the world will be on America for the big World Cup event. J.D. Vance has been named as the vice chair of the White House task force on the World Cup. Obviously, President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance will be presiding over all of the events on this international platform. And yesterday, as the task force was having a meeting, J.D. Vance made what I thought was kind of a funny joke here. Take a listen, and then we'll discuss.
Well, I'm proud to be the vice chair of this for a couple of reasons. First of all, the last time the president had me around a national or international sports trophy was the college football playoff national championship, and I almost broke it. And so I appreciate the president giving me a second chance here. But as all of you know, soccer is a sport of incredible grace and finesse and beauty. These are three things that have nothing to do with politics, and so we're thrilled to have the FIFA World Cup in the United States of America. I think that you'll see the very best of the United States of America, both in athletic competition but also in hospitality, something our boss knows quite a bit about. And so we're excited to have you. We're excited for this event, and we will do everything at the government level to make this thing as successful as we can. And I will say, before I turn it over to the next speaker, that, of course, everybody is welcome to come and see this incredible event. I know we'll have visitors probably from close to 100 countries. We want them to come. We want them to celebrate. We want them to watch the game. But when the time is up, they'll have to go home. Otherwise, they'll have to talk to Secretary Noem, who I'll turn it over to now.
In other words, don't overstay your visas, your tourist visa, and think that you can stay here illegally because we'll deport you. That's funny. I thought that was funny, right? And true.
I think so. But it's a typical, joke, and then the leftist media goes absolutely insane.
Right.
Like they're going to kick them out.
Did you see the headline from the Huffington Post? J.D. Vance threatens soccer fans.
I know. It's like the Mexicans are going to go wild. What if the U.S. beats Mexico? What does that really mean? You could just see these conversations happening. It's just the way the left is, but what can you do? What can you do?
But I'm not worried about the Mexican soccer fans. It's those Germans.
But Larry, there could be protests if you think about it. I mean, it could lead to kind of the protests coming here as well on President Trump's immigration policy, because it is such a big Latin American sport. I mean, it's a European sport as well.
I think they should all stay home. I think they should withdraw their teams from the competition if they, That would be a great protest. There should be a boycott of the World Cup, and then finally the U.S. can win one.
That is true.
Other ICE activities in Washington, D.C., and we briefly mentioned it yesterday. Chef Jeff's iconic D.C. restaurant in Northwest D.C. on New Mexico, right by American University, had ICE agents come in. They're calling it a raid. I don't know if it was a raid, but ICE agents came in and asked to see the I-9 forms of the employees there, which, by the way, is completely within their rights. That's why we fill out these I-9 forms. They're federal forms. They're supposed to verify that you're a U.S. citizen. You're not supposed to work in this country unless you have documentation that aligns with the I-9 form. But there is some question as to why Chef Jeff's restaurant in particular was targeted. It just so happens Chef Jeff's wife is former CBS News anchor Nora O'Donnell.
What is she doing these days? Do we know?
She's doing special reports for CBS News.
Oh,
they do primetime
I like doing special reports.
Yeah,
that might be a good job.
I actually like. I used to go to Chef Jeff's. I would go to Leah's, which is one of the Chef Jeff restaurants right in Chevy Chase. It's like 2 blocks from the radio station. Great restaurant, actually. And Chef Jeff has been on the show often. He's a good guy. And by the way,
well, I'm sure he's not enjoying
as good a guy as he is. If he's employing illegal immigrants knowingly, he shouldn't be doing that.
So but I'm wondering because if there are it looks like ICE is going to be conducting these sorts of operations in certain locations. I think DC being one of them. And it's going to be interesting to watch how these businesses are able to deal with this. Because let's remember, it was like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, for example, that they've been huge advocates of all this, kind of soft immigration reform type of language. Like so it's interesting to watch how these businesses are going to be able to handle this. But it's truly the businesses to a certain point, Larry, and I want your opinion on this. I think they need to be held accountable. Like they're the ones hiring a lot of these individuals, and they need to know who is working for them.
Most of the time when I rail against our existing immigration laws that are not being enforced, like filling out the I-9, I add to that, and Republicans are part of the problem because Republican congressmen have blocked E-Verify every single time they have an opportunity to pass it. It's outrageous. And you can't take money out of your account. You can't get on an airplane. There's so many things you can't do unless you have a very real and valid ID. You shouldn't be able to get a job either. And we can do that. We have the technology to check people when they get hired to make sure that they're here legally and they have very real documentation that hasn't been stolen from an innocent person who's the victim of ID theft. And yet Republicans continue to block that in the House. Get E-Verify passed.
Yeah, and it brings up the question, we have the technology to do it. Why not be able to quickly make sure that we know who these individuals are? And then the other piece of this that I think is missing is that you do have these temporary visas, these guest worker programs where individuals come to the country to do jobs that Americans are not doing, and then they go back to their country because they want to be back in their country.
That's
and
right.
It doesn't create the chain migration system that is what we have seen happening with the illegal immigration situation.
Which is exactly how it's supposed to work, and actually, by the way, conveniently, is what the law says. It's actually the laws that have been passed that just continue to be ignored. It's 7:24. Go to Chef Jeff's, though. They've got a great burger, especially the Leah burger over in Chevy Chase. All right, coming up, when are we going to have a pope, and who's it going to be? And what was that seagull doing on the roof of the Sistine Chapel? What does he know? Raymond Arroyo, EWTN, joins us next, live from Rome, the latest from the Conclave. It's O'Connor and Company with Larry and Mercy.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37 now. It's O'Connor and Company on this Thursday morning. Thanks for tuning in here to our program. We're getting you where you need to go with all the information you need. Smile on your face at the same time. It ain't easy, by the way. 8:05, we'll talk to Katie McFarland about Secretary Besson's upcoming meeting with China, as well as the decision by the Houthis to stop trying to fight the United States Navy. Probably a good idea. 8:35, Senator Rand Paul will talk about gain-of-function research, now ended by executive order, and whether Anthony Fauci will ever see any kind of justice. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Mercedes Schlapp. You're just smiling at the thought of this is why he got the pardon, right? He got the pardon.
He got the pardon. He is all set. Don't worry. And he'll be on the cover of Vogue magazine in like 3 years because this is what these people do all the time. I mean, they're martyrs. Their heroes are the Maryland man, Abrego Garcia. Their heroes, their martyrs are Dr. Fauci, where NIH was going to start, they were going to have a little museum or exhibit on the accomplishments of Dr. Fauci in this building that nobody goes to. And so they were going to spend taxpayer dollars on it. Let's be real, Larry. It's the insanity of the left.
Well, we got to right that ship, and that it takes a couple of administrations to do it, and we've got a good start here with this one, only about 110 days in. Meanwhile, a lot of Catholics are hoping that the next pope potentially will, I don't want to say right the ship, because the fact of the matter is the Catholic Church, in terms of its dogma, its doctrine, its teaching, its faith and morals, did not change one lick under Pope Francis. But the public face of the church definitely had a different feel and a different message, and sometimes confusing and convoluted suggestions of certain reforms that never ultimately happened, but it certainly left some of the faithful confused. And that's why there are a lot of hopes that we could have a little bit more clarity coming out of this current conclave. We've got a Raymond Arroyo joining us now from Rome. Things are busy there. I'm sure you're in the middle of one of your 3-hour lunches there, as the Romans love to do, Raymond.
No, I wish, Larry. I wish. No, I was actually in a dead zone. I said, I have to do this interview with Larry. I ran into the Sala Stampa, the Holy See press office. Guess what? No cell coverage. Welcome,
of course.
So I ran to my hotel, and that's why I called you now.
Well, thank you. You also have Mercedes Schlapp here, so we're.
Yes.
Larry.
Oh, Mercedes, hi.
Hi, my dear. But really, Raymond should be fasting because at this moment in time, we need a lot of prayers, right, Raymond, to make sure the Holy Spirit comes down and helps make sure the Cardinals make a good pick.
Mercy, when it's funny you say that. When I landed in Rome, I made a decision to let you and Larry be my fasting surrogates during this time because I'm not missing the pasta.
That's unfair.
You won't do without. You're in D.C.
It's a lot easier to fast here than over there. That's for sure, Raymond.
Yeah,
Raymond, is there, so far, again, just for people just joining us this morning, we had black smoke right around noontime. That means the morning votes are over. Still no pontiff.
Yes.
Is there any sort of whispering going on? I know that they're supposed to be sequestered, but sometimes word gets out through some of the bishops or some of the nuns. Is there a candidate that's leading the pack?
Well, the Parolin was the candidate leading the pack. And Parolin, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, is the Secretary of State, or was, under Pope Francis. He's a kind of he's a career diplomat. He's got the charisma of a carrot. He's not a particularly, fascinating guy, but he cleaves to the Francis line. He would support the synodality stuff we've seen. Here's the problem. My problem with Pietro Parolin. I've been very transparent. I don't think you should hedge or lie to your audience. This is the man who wrote and is the engineer of the Vatican-China deal, that secret deal that basically handed over the faithful Catholics of China and allowed the Chinese communist authorities to choose bishops. Why any pope, why any diplomat would agree to a deal like that and then keep it secret for 8 years is an abomination. So to my mind, and I've spoken about 20 cardinals over the last 6 days and had dinner with them and going to events with them. I can't tell you who I talked to and the content of all of that, but I'll tell you this. That was a topic of conversation to almost every one I spoke. So I think Parolin's candidacy is hurt by that, as well as by he's part of the financial chicanery, that London real estate deal that cost them $200 million they lost. That was under Parolin. So this, I just don't think he's tenable. I know they would like to have that, but every time you see black smoke, people say, oh, we don't have a pope. Don't worry about it. I say let the black smoke keep pumping out. I'll bring the tar to make it black because you want this to drag on.
Wait a second. Raymond, are you...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish.
The longer this voting goes on, the closer you're getting to a traditional Roman Catholic pope and the further you're getting away from the kind of chaotic doctrinal anarchy, to steal Bishop Barron's line, that we watched under Pope Francis.
Well, Raymond, you must be the secret seagull. You sent it as a drone right by the chimney to try to get information, but we can talk about that at a different time. But I want to talk about one of my favorites, just because I love his name, Cardinal Pizzaballa. And tell me about him, because he's a member of the Franciscan order, really viewed as someone who offered himself as an exchange for the hostage, one of the hostages in the Gaza situation. Really someone who seems to be beloved by many of the cardinals. What's your sense about him?
Pier Battista, I've known him, Cardinal Pizzaballa, for about 25 years. We serve on the same board. I just had lunch with him in Dallas not long ago. So I know a lot about him. Yes, this is why I think he's going to be the breakout compromise candidate, or one of them, okay? No one knows. But he's a name you heard a lot, okay? And here's why. He did offer himself not for one victim, for all of the victims all the people who were the hostages that Hamas was holding after October 7th. He's the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, and he said he would offer himself in exchange for those hostages. Well, that made international headlines. And, these cardinals wear red, and people are asking me, why do they wear red dresses? Well, they wear those red cassocks because that is a sign of their willingness to spill their blood for their people. And here was a man who stepped forward and said, you know what, release the women, children, and men. I'll go instead. They didn't take him up on the offer, but he has great relations with both the Palestinians and the Israelis, a hard group to balance. He's been in the Franciscans and in the Holy Land for 35 years. He's a biblical scholar who loves the Word of God and believes we all have to be awash in it and rooted in it. And he believes Jerusalem is the center of the church.
Amen.
And as Latin Patriarch, he also cleaned up a university that was financially bankrupt. They had shrines that were teetering on bankruptcy. He cleaned all that up as well. This guy he's a blunt Italian, I have to tell you. He's from the farming, country in northern Italy. So he's rather blunt, a little brusque, but he's a Franciscan, and he's a man of deep spirituality, and I think he could be an interesting compromise candidate if they can't get, one of the other primary candidates out of the gate.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for moving heaven and earth there to get a signal in Rome. I imagine that the infrastructure is taxed right now with all of the media there, all the world's eyes there, and of course all the world is watching EWTN, the global powerhouse media juggernaut for the Catholic
Don't only
Church.
watch EWTN, Larry. Watch Fox, because that's where you'll see me live most times. So EWTN decided to go their own way this time. They've got their own team doing the live coverage. So I'm relegated to the small confines of Fox News. So sad.
Wow! You poor thing. Well, and also, by the way, set aside all of those.
Every time I go on set, and then I'm doing the Conclave crew on Arroyo Grande on my YouTube channel, Arroyo Grande.
That's
show.
what I was about to say. Set aside those
good.
corporate media brands and just subscribe to Arroyo Grande, a great podcast that I'm really enjoying. I'm catching up on some back episodes now, Raymond. But you really are. Everyone has known for years that you're a great interviewer. You're so conversational with the guests that you have, no matter how big they are. And I'm really enjoying that podcast. It's Arroyo Grande. Grab it on YouTube. Thank you, Raymond, and enjoy yourself there.
Thank you. Well, I learned everything from you and Mercedes, and I'm still
of course.
So
We've
thank
trained
I love that you all
see, you just lost all your credibility by throwing me in the mix there. All right, thank you, Raymond.
Love you both. Talk to you soon. Ciao.
7:46 now.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
So, yes, that was our papal conclave coverage. I assure you it's superior to what you're getting on the networks. Listen to this from CBS News yesterday.
One thing to understand is that all of that takes time. We imagine in the conclave that there's all this charged political debate going on. No, inside the Sistine Chapel itself, virtually the entire time that the cardinals are inside is given over to the ritual of the balloting. Each ballot takes about an hour and a half, and with this extraordinary number of electors, it'll probably even take a little longer.
So they sit the whole time? They don't stand up and
most of them will tell you that while that's going on, they're sitting reading their breviary. That's a book of prayers that clergy have, or praying a rosary, or doing the one thing we know they're not doing is checking Instagram, because their devices have all been confiscated.
I believe the kids call it raw dogging it if you're going to go through a long period of time with no electronic device.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, they're of a certain age, so they might be used to
I just wanted
What? Raw dogging it?
What is raw dogging, please? As a Cuban, I have no idea what that means. What's raw dogging?
Well, I don't know if I can get into the details of
Fine,
raw
I'll
dogging
look
right
it up.
now.
You keep talking. Let me look it up real quick. This is what happens.
Okay, go ahead.
That
I
sometimes
suggest
is like, do you know American culture, Mercy? I'm like,
everybody can look it up.
Sometimes.
I assure you, though, the Cardinals are not raw dogging anything. Meanwhile, here's some more from the CBS co-anchors. They should really hire people who know something about the Catholic Church.
Oh, my goodness.
And Nora, that's one perspective right there. The church doesn't need to change. We want that continuity. They say that's what makes it powerful and beautiful. But so many other people, like that flight attendant, Kathy Freeman, said, I'm Catholic, I'm still Catholic, but my children are not. And in fact, she said specifically because she wants to see women in positions of leadership.
It's a question that I asked Pope Francis in my interview. Could a little Catholic girl grow up and think that maybe she could be a deacon someday or a member of the clergy? He said no.
Yes, because it's the doctrine of the church. And
they are so oblivious to the world.
Ignorant.
Like, they don't understand the Catholic faith. They don't respect the Catholic faith.
And they don't want to understand it.
No, they think that it has to be like our American system of politics.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. It's
you looked up
really
raw
insane.
dogging? You got the definition?
I did. It was, yeah, okay, now
Yeah.
I know what it means. I can't believe they would have said something like that. That is just, that's so
insulting.
disrespectful.
So,
Yeah,
I
very
mean, it's not
insulting.
as disrespectful as Trump publishing a AI picture of himself as the Pope, apparently. That
Well,
we're supposed to be outraged
It was
over.
his team, but, you know,
It was
funny.
funny.
It was kind of funny.
7:54.